you awake or did I wake you up? I woke you up. Okay, sorry. Well, I mean, I kinda meant to wake you up, but still sorry. I just thought you wanted to do something today. Yeah, no, you fell asleep for a couple hours. We still have time, though. No, honestly, sometimes doing nothing is better than doing something. Yeah, you could definitely go back to bed, no pressure from me. I'm just glad you're feeling relaxed. Well, since I woke you up, it does feel like it is my duty to put you back to sleep. If you want. Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm really happy we are getting to spend any time together, and if that time is just relaxing, that is so much better than going to do something. Okay, how about this? We make it more even. You know that I am notoriously so bad at finishing a book, and I'm in a book club, and I haven't even started our book. So why don't you let me read you the book, and you can try to go back to sleep. No, you don't have to pay attention. Well, you can pay attention, but you never pay attention to me anyway. So, okay. I have it on me because I'm carrying it everywhere, even though I haven't been reading it. The Alchemist. Have you read it? It's supposed to be like one of those books you should read, so I'm imagining it's gonna be good, but I don't know, I just haven't started it. I'm borrowing my friend's copy, and whoa, look how just like crinkly and damaged it is. It almost makes like the mountaintop kind of scenery look like 3D. See like the little mountains here, and the edges of the pages just, kind of look like they're actually textured, which I don't think that was her intent. I think she just spilled something on it. And look at the back. I think it's one of those smart books. What does it say? To realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation. Ooh, I like that. Okay, this might be interesting. Well, you either listen and get inspired or just go to sleep, but I will be reading. The pages are so crinkly because, the water stains. Okay, a lot of forwards. Other books by the author. Title page. There's a forward. I'm gonna skip the forward. Stop judging me. There is a forward and a prologue. No, I know, I'm not a big reader. Okay, fine, we'll read the prologue. Translated by Clifford Ian Landers. The alchemist picked up a book that someone in the caravan had brought. Leafing through the pages, he found a story about Neuricius. Is it Neuricius? Am I saying that right? The alchemist knew the legend of Neuricius, a youth who knelt daily beside a lake, to contemplate his own beauty. He was so fascinated by himself that one morning he fell into the lake and drowned. At the spot where he fell, a flower was born, which was called Neuricius. Oh, I lost my spot. Stop distracting me. But This was not how the author of the book ended the story. He said that when Eurystheus died, the goddess of the forest appeared and found the lake, which had been fresh water, transformed into a lake of salty tears. Sad. Why do you weep? The goddess asked. I weep for Eurystheus, the lake replied. Ah, it is no surprise you weep for Eurystheus, they said, for we always pursued him in the forest. You alone could contemplate his beauty close at hand. But was Eurystheus beautiful? The lake asked. Who better than you to know that? The goddess said in wonder. After all, it was by your bank that he knelt each day to contemplate himself. The lake was silent for some time. Finally, it said, I weep for Eurystheus, but I never noticed that Eurystheus was beautiful. I weep because each time he knelt beside my banks, I could see, in the depths of his eyes, my own beauty reflected. Is that how you feel when you're looking at me? What a lovely story, the alchemist thought. Okay, that's the prologue. Oh, it has some photos. There you could see Eurystheus in the lake. And then we have part 1. Part 1. No, I won't be annoyed if you go to sleep. Part 1. The boy's name was Santiago. Dusk was falling as the boy arrived with his herd at an abandoned church. The roof had fallen in long ago, and an enormous sycamore had grown on the spot where the scarcity had once stood. Sacred. I don't know. He decided to spend the night there. He saw to it that all the sheep entered through the ruined gate, and then laid some planks across it to prevent the flock from wandering away during the night. There were no wolves in the region, but once an animal had strayed during the night, and the boy had to spend the entire next day searching for it. This kind of feels like this is reminding me of what's the word? Like children's stories, like folklore kid stories I would read to you when we were little, you remember? He swept the floor with his jacket and lay down, using the book he had just finished reading as a pillow. He told himself that he would have to start reading thicker books. They lasted longer and made more comfortable pillows. It was still dark when he awoke, and looking up, he could see the stars through the half-destroyed roof. I wanted to sleep in a little longer, he thought. He had the same dream that night a week ago, and once again he had awoken before it ended. He arose, taking up his crook, began to awaken the sheep that still slept. He had noticed that as soon as he awoke, most of the animals had begun to stir. It was as if some mysterious energy bound his life to that of the sheep, with whom he had spent the past 2 years, leading them through the countryside in search of food and water. They are so used to me that they know my schedule, he muttered. Thinking about that for a moment, he realized that it could be the other way around, that it was he who had become accustomed to their schedule. But there were certain of them who took a bit longer to awaken. The boy prodded them one by one with his crook, calling each by name. He had always believed that the sheep were able to understand what he said, so there were times when he read them parts of his books that had an impression on him, when he would tell them of the loneliness or the happiness of a shepherd in the fields. Sometimes he would comment to them on the things that he had seen in the village as they passed by. But for the past few days, he had spoken to them about only one thing: the girl, the daughter of a merchant who lived in the village they would reach in about 4 days. He had been to the village only once the year before. The merchant was the proprietor of a dry goods shop, and he had always demanded that the sheep be sheared in his presence, so that he would not be cheated. A friend had told the boy about the shop, and he had taken his sheep there. "I need to sell some wool," the boy told the merchant. The shop was busy, and the man asked the shepherd to wait until the afternoon. So the boy sat on the steps of the shop and took a book from his bag. "I didn't know the shepherd knew how to read," a girl's voice behind him. The girl was typical of that region of Andalusia, I think, with flowing black hair and eyes that vaguely recalled the Moorish conquerors. "Well, I usually learn more from my sheep than from my books," he answered. They're flirting, I think. During the 2 hours that oh, there's a picture. Okay, so that's the shepherd and his sheep. Is this boring you or interesting you so far? I can't tell yet. During the 2 hours that they talked, she told him that she was the merchant's daughter, and spoke of life in the village, where each day was like all the others. The shepherd told her of the Andalusian countryside and related the news from the other towns where he had stopped. It was a pleasant change from talking to his sheep. "How did you learn to read?" the girl asked at one point. "Like everyone learns," he said, "in school." "Well, if you know how to read, why are you just a shepherd?" The boy mumbled an answer that allowed him to avoid responding to her question. He was sure the girl would never understand. He went on telling stories about his travels, and her bright Moorish eyes went from wide with fear and surprise. As time passed, the boy found himself wishing that the day would never end, and that her father would stay busy and keep him waiting for 3 days. He recognized that he was feeling something he had never experienced before: the desire to live in one place forever. Love really can make you feel like that, huh? But finally the merchant appeared and asked the boy to shear 4 sheep. He paid for the wool and asked the shepherd to come back the following year. Oh wow, he has to wait a year. That's a long time. And now it was only 4 days before he was back in the same village. He was excited and at the same time uneasy. Maybe the girl had already forgotten him. Lots of shepherds passed through selling their wool. Is that a euphemism? Sorry, I'll be serious. Go to sleep. "It doesn't matter," he said to this sheep. "I know other girls in other places." Oh my goodness. But in his heart he knew that it didn't matter, and that he knew that shepherds, like seamen and like traveling salesmen, always found a town where there was someone who could make them forget the joys of carefree wandering. The days were dawning, and the shepherds urged his sheep into the direction of the sun. They never have to make any decisions, he thought. Maybe that's why they always stay close to me. That's like you following me around your whole life. The only thing that concerned the sheep were food and water. As long as the boy knew how to find the best pastures in Andalusia, they would be his friends. Yes, their days were all the same, with the seemingly endless hours between sunrise and dusk. They had never read a book in their young lives and didn't understand when the boy told them about the sights of the cities. They were content with just food and water, and in exchange, they generously gave their wool, their company, and once in a while, their meat. he's eating his sheep. Damn. Darn. If I become a monster today and decide to kill them one by one, and they would become aware only after most of the flock have been slaughtered, thought the boy. They trust me, and if they've forgotten how to rely on their own instincts because I've led them to nourishment. That's kind of creepy. The boy was surprised at his thoughts. Me too. Maybe the church with the sycamore growing from within had been haunted. It had caused him to have the same dream for a second time, and it caused him to feel anger towards his faithful companions. He drank a bit from the wine that remained from his dinner the night before, and he gathered his jackets close to his body. How old are you imagining this guy? Do you think he's like 12 or 16 or like 19? Because he's drinking wine and dreaming of girls, but he is a boy, he keeps saying. So he knew a few hours from now, with the sun in its zenith, the heat would be so great that he would not be able to lead his flock across the field. It was the time of the day when all of Spain slept during the summer. Oh, they're in Spain. Should I have already known that, based on the town they were saying? I'll be honest, I thought this was a fantasy book. I'm not stupid, stop. The heat lasted until nightfall, and at that time he had to carry his jacket. But when he thought to complain about the burden of its weight, he remembered that because he had the jacket, he had withstood the cold of dawn. I personally am a carry a jacket kind of person rather than be cold. Okay, I know that wasn't an interesting tidbit. Go to sleep, I say. We have to be prepared for change, he thought. And he was grateful for the jacket's weight and warmth. The jacket had a purpose, and so did the boy. His purpose in life was to travel, and after 2 years of walking the Andalusian terrain, he knew all the cities of the region. He was planning on this visit to explain to the girl how it was that a simple shepherd knew how to read, that he had attained a seminary until he was 16. Oh, attended a seminary until he was 16. Okay, so he was older than 16. His parents had wanted him to become a priest and thereby a source of pride for a simple farm family. They worked hard just to have food and water like the sheep. He had studied Latin, Spanish, and theology. But ever since he had been a child, he wanted to know the world. And this was much more important to him than knowing God and learning about man's sins. One afternoon, on a visit to his family, he had summoned up the courage to tell his father that he didn't want to be a priest, that he wanted to travel. My feet are falling asleep, but I'll read a little more. Are you still up? Are you still up? Okay. You're nodding off there, aren't you, though? People from all over the world have passed through this village, son, said his father. They come in search of new things, but when they leave, they are basically the same people than when they arrived. They climb the mountain to see the castle, and then they wind up thinking that the past was better than what we have now. They have blonde hair or dark skin. Basically, they're the same as the people who live right here. But I'd like to see the castles and the towns where they live, the boy explained. Those people, when they see our land, say that they would like to live here forever, the father continued. Well, I'd like to see their land and see how they live, said his son. The people who come here have a lot of money to spend so they can afford to travel, said his father. Amongst us, the only ones who travel are the shepherds. Well, then I'll be a shepherd. His father said no more. The next day he gave his son a pouch that held 3 ancient Spanish gold coins. I found these one day in the fields. I wanted them to be a part of your inheritance. But use them to buy your flock. Take to the fields, and someday you'll learn that our countryside is the best, and our women are the most beautiful. And he gave the boy his blessing. The boy could see in his father's gaze a desire to be able himself to travel the world, a desire that was still alive despite his father's having had to bury it over dozens of years under the burden of struggling for water to drink, food to eat, and the same place to sleep every night of his life. There's a picture. The pouch with the 3 coins. The pouch with the 3 coins. No, I have not gotten a manicure in a while. Thank you for pointing it out. The horizon was tinged with red, and suddenly the sun appeared. The boy thought back to that conversation with his father and felt happy. He had already seen many castles and met many women, but none the equal of the one who awaited him several days hence. He owned a jacket, a book that he could trade for another, and a flock of sheep, but most important, he was able, every day, to live out his dream. If he were tired of the Andalusian fields, he could sell his sheep and go to the sea. By the time he had enough of the sea, he would already have known other cities, other women, and other chances to be happy. I couldn't have found God in the cemetery, he thought, as he looked at the sunrise. This book is talking about God and women a lot more than I was expecting. But that's fine. Whenever he could, he sought out a new road to travel. He had never been to that ruined church before, and in spite of having traveled through those parts many times, the world was huge and inexhaustible. He had only to allow his sheep to set the route for a while, and he would discover other interesting things. The problem is that they don't even realize they're walking a new road every day. They don't see the fields that are new and the seasons change. All they think about is food and water. Maybe we're all that way, the boy mused. Even me, I haven't thought of other women since I met the merchant's daughter. Looking at the sun, he calculated that he would reach Tarafia by midday. There he could exchange his book for a thicker one, fill his wine bottle, shave, and have a haircut. He had to prepare himself for his meeting with the girl, and he didn't want to think about the possibility of some other shepherd with a large flock of sheep had arrived there before him and asked for her hand. Oh, was he proposing? They moved a lot quicker back then. Back when specifically, I don't know when this book is from, but back yonder they moved quicker. It's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting, he thought. Oh, I like that. As he looked again at the position of the sun and hurried his place, he had suddenly remembered that in Tarfia there was an old woman who interpreted dreams. Oh, he's gonna go get a dream interpreted. The old woman led the boy to a room at the back of her house. It was separated from her living room by a curtain of colored beads. I'd love a curtain of colored beads in my room. The room's furnishing consisted of a table, an image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and 2 chairs. The woman sat down and told him to be seated as well. She took both of his hands in hers and began quietly to pray. I'm gonna slide over. It sounded like a prayer the boy had already experienced on the road. They also traveled, but they had no flocks of sheep. People say that they spent their lives tricking others. It was also said that they had a pact with the devil and that they kidnapped children and taking them away to their mysterious camps made them their slaves. As a child, the boy had always been frightened to death that he would be captured by them. And this childhood fear returned when the old woman took his hands in hers. But she had the Sacred Heart of Jesus there, he thought, trying to reassure himself. He didn't want his hand to be again trembling, showing the older woman that he was fearful. He recited Our Father silently. Very interesting, said the woman, never taking her eyes from the boy's hands. And then she fell silent. The boy became nervous. His hands began to tremble, and the woman sensed it. He quickly pulled his hands away. Are you getting scared? Are you awake? Checking. I didn't come here to have you read my poem, he said. I heard you regret having come. He thought for a moment that it would be better to pay your fee and leave without learning a thing. And that he was giving too much importance to his recurring dreams. You came so you could learn about your dreams, said the old woman, and dreams are the language of God. When he speaks in our language, I can interpret what he has said, but if he speaks in the language of the soul, it is only you who can understand. But whichever it is, I'm going to charge you for the consultation. Get your coin. Another trick, the boy thought, but he decided to take a chance. As shepherds always take chances with wolves and with drought, and that's what makes shepherds' lives exciting. I kind of want to be a shepherd. I have the same dream twice, he said. I dreamed that I was in a field with my sheep when a child appeared and I began to play with the animals. I don't like when people do that because the sheep are afraid of strangers, but children always seem to be able to play with them without frightening them. I don't know why. I don't know how animals know the age of human beings. Tell me more about your dream, said the woman. I have to get back to my cooking, and since you don't have much money, I can't give you a lot of time. The child went on its playing with my sheep for quite a while, continued the boy, a bit upset. And suddenly the child took me by both hands and transported me to the Egyptian pyramids. Oh, we can see the pyramids. The pyramids. He paused for a moment to see if the woman knew what the Egyptian pyramids were, but she said nothing. Then at the Egyptian pyramids, he said at last the last three words slowly so that the old woman would understand. He's condescending. The child said to me, if you come here, you will find a hidden treasure. And just as she was about to show me the exact location, I woke up. Both times. The woman was silent for some time. Then again, she took his hands and studied him carefully. I'm not going to charge you anything now, she said, but I want 1/10 of the treasure if you find it. The boy laughed out of happiness. He was going to be able to save a little money he had because of a dream about hidden treasure. Well, interpret the dream, he said. First, just swear to me. Swear that you'll give me 1/10 of your treasure in exchange for what I'm going to tell you. Oh, this is heating up. The shepherd swore that he would. The old woman asked him to swear again while looking at the image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. It's like a dream in the language of the world, she said. Oh, it's a dream in the language of the world, she said. I can interpret it, but the interpretation is very difficult. That's why I feel that I deserve part of what you find. And this is my interpretation. You must go to the pyramids in Egypt. I have never heard of them. But if I was a child who showed them to you, they exist. There you will find a treasure that will make you a rich man. The boy was surprised and then irritated. He didn't need to seek out the old woman for this. But then remembered he wasn't going to have to pay anything. I don't need to waste my time just for this, he said. I told you that your dream was a difficult one. It's the simple things in life that are the most extraordinary. Only wise men are able to understand them, and since I am not wise, I have to learn from the arts, such as the reading of palms. Well, how am I going to get to Egypt? I only interpret dreams. I don't know how to turn them into a reality. That's why I have to live off what my daughter provides me with. And what if I never go to Egypt? Then I don't get paid. It wouldn't be the first time. And then the old woman told the boy to leave, saying she had already wasted too much time with him. So the boy was disappointed. He decided that he would never again believe in his dreams. He remembered that he had a number of things to take care of. He went to the market for something to eat. He traded his book for one that was thicker, and he found a bench in the plaza where he could sample the new wine he had bought. The day was hot, and the wine was refreshing. sheep were the keys of the city and a stable that belonged to a friend. The boy knew a lot of people in the city. That was me, traveling, appealing to him. He always made new friends. And he didn't need to spend all of his time with them. When someone sees the same people every day, as had happened with him in the seminary, they wind up becoming part of that person's life. And then they want that person to change. If someone isn't what others want them to be, the other people become angry. Everyone seems to have a clear idea of how other people should lead their lives, but not about his or her own. He decided to wait until the sun had sunk a bit lower in the sky before following his flock back through the fields. 3 days from now, he would be with the merchant's daughter. Are you asleep or not? Okay. Well, then I think I'll stop there. I hope you have really nice dreams. And I hope that you're not so sleepy.